This is the easiest tip you can follow to overcome getting banned on Airbnb, or that is having your listing compromised or in review for God knows how long. One of my buddies launched his property this past week. First time user, no repeat offender of any kind. And on day 2, his list was just banned and under review. And now, if he decides to solely depend on Airbnb the way multiple operators are, his business stops before it even gets started. But if you're anything like us, we leverage Airbnb, but we do not depend on it. And that is the biggest problem with a lot of these operators for getting the short-term rental space, that they only depend on Airbnb. Now, I'm not talking about going on VRBO as a solution. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying that there is an alternative solution where you can actually work with other companies who are in search, who have been around for decades for furnished accommodation like yours. And if you're solely dependent on Airbnb, then you will solely be in a bottleneck and your business will stop before it even gets started if they choose, for whatever reason, or some algorithm hack or some algorithm malfunction happens where you get banned before you get started. You can be in the hole. But if you understand the model that we play in, where we leverage Airbnb as a source, as one of the biggest and most trafficked Airbnb platforms on the internet when it comes to short-term rentals, absolutely should be leveraged. And I'm not saying build your own site and they will come. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there are other alternatives. There are big corporations. There's $1 trillion industry behind that is willing and in need of furnished accommodation like yours, and you just simply don't know that they exist. That is until you started to watch this video, of course. So what am I really talking about? What I'm talking about is there is an industry that's been around for decades, even if I would go as far back as a century, where it is called temporary housing, with insurance companies who have displaced policyholders. That means something happens to their home, an unforeseen event, and when that happens, they are in need of furnished housing, furnished accommodation. And for those who know that they exist, who are in their temporary housing databases, which is just a fancy word for saying put your listing on their websites. There are hundreds of these websites locally, nationwide. You want to make sure you're also existing on those websites, because if you exist on those websites, it means that you're just a phone call away from getting your property booked with less turnover and less headache. Unlike on Airbnb, when there's multiple guests that you're catering to, high turnovers, high headache, high expectations. In this case, these are families that are displaced for maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, even 12 months, who are paying you the same rate you would otherwise get on Airbnb, and sometimes even more. And this is powerful, because if you understand the power behind being able to leverage these platforms, you now are no longer solely dependent on Airbnb traffic, but you now open up the floodgates of the temporary housing insurance niche, which is the niche that we specialize in. That's completely changed the game for us, because when we first got into this space, we wanted to make as much profits as possible with our short-term accommodations. That is why we got into the space in the first place, and we didn't want to do long-term rentals because the numbers were not there. And while we did have our share of success, we did find that it did turn and start to get into us burning out, with, again, a lot of turnovers, a lot of high maintenance requests. And we wanted something that was, again, more stable and more long-term building for our personal brand and our company brand, and being able to actually get direct contacts from these relocation specialists to then foster a relationship that kept on giving. And that's what we get. We don't get these one-night stands on Airbnb, but instead we are getting these long-term partnerships of people who have multiple families that are in need of being relocated. So the best thing that you can do to overcome getting banned on Airbnb is solely not just being only dependent on it and being on a lot of these platforms, being on multiple platforms. VRBO, sure, that can be it, but that's not our main platform at all by any means. As a matter of fact, what we do leverage is Furnished Finder, Zillow Rental Manager, multiple platforms such as Corporate Housing by Owner. A lot of these platforms are meant to do just that. Furnished accommodations with flexible extensions, flexible terms, flexible stays. You want to make sure you're flexible. And
if you're currently getting value from watching this video, you'll want to make sure you take a second and click below to grab the midterm rental insurance blueprint to help accelerate your process in being able to land these midterm rental insurance contracts with respect to your marketplace. Make sure you click the button below and grab it and continue on with the gems in this video.
Please, you want to make sure you are pet friendly, because there is not enough inventory available for those who are looking for pet friendly options. And when you are pet friendly, you can overcome that limiting belief that pets will completely trash your home, etc. And not only are there measures in place that you can put into, but you're going to increase your chances of being able to temporarily house a family that's going to pay you just as much, if not more, than Airbnb would, with less headaches and turnover. So one way to not be like my friend, who, by the way, happens to be my friend, so therefore I did give him the blueprint on how to overcome this automatic ban or freeze of their listing. By the way, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If you've been an operator for long enough, your listing might be in jeopardy of getting banned. All it takes is one false in algorithm or one unfortunate comment by one of your guests, and your listing can be under review for as long as it takes them to figure out the problem. And if you're anything like me, action makers are money makers, and we don't have the time to wait for someone else to dictate when our listing is going to be available to start generating income. And that is why we find quick alternatives that for the long run become an asset, because then we are able to build a book of relationship business. And that is where the money is, and that is where the opportunity is, that is where the long-term gains are, as opposed to the short-term sites, maybe home runs of bookings here and there that are one and done. You don't have the contact information of the guest, and they don't ever have the intention to come back again. In the other way around, when you serve a temporary housing company, they'll continue to come back to you with other families to serve. Your avatar becomes the temporary housing companies, as opposed to your avatar being the guest. And if anything, we always think about who has the big bang. Serve the customer has the big bang. Serve the vendor that has continuous families that they need to relocate, and that becomes your client. You're serving the gatekeeper. That is who you want to serve, and that is how you can actually overcome getting banned on Airbnb, is by not solely being dependent on it. If this is your first time hearing this, make sure you grab my midterm rental insurance blueprint, which will give you a fast track on what this industry is about, how you can overcome getting your listing banned on Airbnb by solely just going an alternative route that may make you just as much, if not more, with less headaches. Make sure you click below and make sure you hit the subscribe button for many more term rental temporary housing insurance gems to come your way. If you got value from this video, make sure you check out my 3 reasons why midterm rentals require less effort than Airbnbs.